If you have ever attended a mitzvah, you would know that Jewish people can be really conservative and religious, but then there are some Jewish sects that do things extremely differently. If you're as curious as me, you might begin to wonder how many branches there are in the Jewish community, as well as how interconnected they can be. In this video, we would be taking a deep look at the diversity in the Jewish community, as well as some of the key elements that stand out in the community. If you like this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin with some background information. What do you know about the Jewish community? Apart from being followers of the book, what else do you know? Here's what we know. We know that the Jews, or the Jewish people, are an ethno-religious group and a nation originating from the Israelites and Hebrews of historical Israel and Judah. Jewish ethnicity, nationhood, and religion are strongly interrelated, as Judaism is the ethnic religion of the Jewish people, while its observance varies from strict observance to complete non-observance. Jews originated as an ethnic and religious group in the Middle East during the 2nd millennium BCE, in the part of the Levant known as the Land of Israel. The Met Bata stele appears to confirm the existence of a people of Israel somewhere in Canaan as far back as the 13th century BCE. The Israelites, as an outgrowth of the Canaanite population, consolidated their hold with the emergence of the Kingdom of Israel and Judah. Some consider that these Canaanite sedentary Israelites melded with incoming nomadic groups known as Hebrews. Though few sources mention the exilic periods in detail, the experience of a diaspora life from the Babylonian captivity and exile to the Roman occupation and exile, and the historical relations between Jews and their homeland thereafter, became a major feature of Jewish history, identity, and memory. The Jewish community and Judaism. Judaism is the world's oldest monolithic religion, dating back nearly 4,000 years. Followers of Judaism believe in one God, who revealed himself through ancient prophets. The history of Judaism is essential to understand the Jewish faith, which has a rich heritage of law, culture, and tradition. Jewish people believe there's only one God who is established in covenant, or special agreement with them. Their God communicates to believers through prophets and rewards good deeds while also punishing evil. Most Jews, with the exception of few people, believe that their Messiah hasn't yet come but will one day. Jewish people worship in holy places known as synagogues, and their spiritual leaders are called rabbis. The six-pointed Star of David is a symbol of Judaism. Today, there are about 14 million Jews worldwide. Most of them live in the United States and Israel. Traditionally, a person is considered Jewish if his or her mother is Jewish. Founder of Judaism. The origins of Jewish faith are explained throughout the Torah. According to the text, God first revealed himself to a Hebrew man named Abraham, who became known as the founder of Judaism. Jews believe that God made a special covenant with Abraham and that he and his descendants were chosen people who would create a great nation. Abraham's son Isaac and his grandson Jacob also became central figures in ancient Jewish history. Jacob took the name Israel, and his children and future generations became known as Israelites. More than 1,000 years after Abraham, the prophet Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt after being enslaved for hundreds of years. According to scriptures, God revealed his laws, known as the 10 Commandments, to Moses at Mount Sinai. Major branches in the Jewish community. Now that you know all about the Jews, their religion, and their deep-rooted origin, it's time to take a dive into the different branches in the Jewish community. Orthodox Jews are typically known for their strict observance of traditional Jewish law and rituals. For instance, most believe Shabbat shouldn't involve working, driving, or handling money. Orthodox Judaism is a diverse sect that includes several subgroups, including Hasidic Jews. This form started in the 18th century in Eastern Europe and holds different values than traditional or ultra-Orthodox Judaism. Hasidic Jews emphasize a mystical experience with God that involves direct communion through prayer and worship. Shabbat is a well-known Orthodox Jewish Hasidic movement. Reform Judaism. Reform Judaism is considered a liberal category of the religion that values ethnic traditions over strict observance of Jewish laws. Followers promote progressive ideas and adaptation. Most of the Jews living in the United States follow Reform Judaic traditions. The 19th century movement in Judaism among Jews who wanted to move into mainstream of European society. Dietary laws, Sabbath observance optional, though often observed. Later, equality for women and homosexuality were seen as acceptable. The Tanakh ethical teachings are emphasized over ritual and ceremony, and services are often conducted in the native language of the congregation rather than in Hebrew. Conservative Judaism. Many people consider this form of Judaism somewhere in between Orthodox and Reform Judaism. Typically, conservative Jews honor the traditions of Judaism while following for some modernization. Began as a 19th century reaction to Reform Judaism. The members of this sect embrace modern dress. women have more room to move out of traditional roles as mothers and homemakers. Admitted women rabbis started in the 1980s. They still follow nearly all Jewish laws. Chassidic Judaism. Chassidism, also known as Hasidic Judaism, is a Jewish religious group that arose as a spiritual revival movement in the territory of contemporary Western Ukraine during the 18th century and spread rapidly throughout Eastern Europe. Today, most affiliates reside in Israel and the United States. Israel ben Eliezer, as Ben Shem Tov, is regarded as its founding father, and his disciples developed and disseminated it. Present-day Hasidism is a subgroup within an ultra-Orthodox sect called the Haredi Judaism. It is noted for its religious and social conservatism and social seclusion. Its members adhere closely both to Orthodox Jewish practice, with the movement's own unique emphasis, and the traditions of Eastern European Jews. Many of the latter, including various special types of dress and the use of Yiddish language, are nowadays associated almost exclusively with Hasidism. Teachings emphasize God's immanence in the universe, the need to cleave and be one with Him at all times, the devotional aspect of religious practice, and the spiritual dimension of corporeality and mundane acts. As of 2016, there were over 130,000 Hasidic households worldwide, about 5% of the global Jewish population. Sephardic Judaism. Sephardic Jews are Spanish Jews who were forced to convert to Catholicism or face expulsion from Spain after 1492. In this great diasporic movement, an estimate of around 100 to 300,000 Spanish Jews left Spain and settled in different parts of Europe and the Middle East. Many settled in the Ottoman Empire after they were welcomed by the Ottoman Sultan. The name Sephardic comes from the Hebrew word for Spain, Sepharad. Zionism. The term Zionism was coined in 1890 by Nathan Birnbaum. Its general definition means the national movement for the return of the Jewish people to their homeland and the resumption of Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel. Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Zionism has come to include the movement for the development of the State of Israel and the protection of the Jewish nation in Israel through support for their Israeli Defense Forces. From inception, Zionism advocated tangibles as well as spiritual aims. Jews of all persuasions, both religious and secular, formed the Zionist movement and worked together towards its goals. But today, there has been a lot of questions around the concept of Zionism. Here's a summation. Is Zionism actually Judaism, or all Jews Zionists? Straight to the point, a Zionist is simply someone who strives for an independent Jewish state. To many religious Jews, Israel is the promised land. But many non-religious Jews, too, value the fact that there is a country where Jews can live in freedom and safety. But it's important to be able to differentiate the people under the Jew, Zionist, as well as the Israeli tag. This is because most Jews do not live in Israel. In the same vein, not every inhabitant of Israel is Jewish, as there are also many non-Jews living in Israel. And not all Jewish Israelis are settlers who want to conquer more and more Palestinian land in the name of Zionism. So the vast majority of Jews believe that the State of Israel should continue to exist, but many Jews both living in Israel and elsewhere are in favor of a Palestinian state alongside Israel as a possible solution to the conflict. To cut a long story short, although many Jews identify with Zionism, there are still many different points of view. That is reason enough to say that not all Jews are Zionist at the core. Minority branches. Not apart from all these notable branches in the Jewish community, there are some other minorities that have a great deal of followership amidst the Jews. They include Reconstructionist Judaism. Founded in America by Rabbi Kaplan in 1922, more liberal than Reform Judaism and criticizes aspects of Judaism as racist, sexist, homophobic. The congregations are often politicized and very synergistic, including aspects of other religious traditions. They reject the concept of miracles and even the idea of a personal God, as well as the concept of the Jews as a chosen people, seeing Judaism rather as an evolving community, analogous to followers of ministries such as Episcopal Bishop John Shelby Spong of John Dominic Crossan. This group is small but seems to push Reform Judaism in a more liberal direction. For example, Rabbi Kaplan performed the first bar mitzvah, which is the coming-of-age ceremony, at the onset of adolescence, analogs to bar mitzvah for a boy. Now, this ceremony is practiced in Reform Judaism as well. Humanistic Judaism. Rabbi Sherwin Wine founded the denomination of Judaism in 1963. Humanistic Jews celebrate Jewish history and culture without an emphasis on God. While there are various denominations of Judaism, many Jews don't identify with a particular classification and simply refer to themselves as Jewish. Language diversity in the Jewish community. Does the language Yiddish ring a bell? No? How about Hebrew? This should. Hebrew and Yiddish are languages spoken by Jews all over the world. A close look at the language spoken within the Jewish community would reveal the use of both Yiddish and Hebrew languages. Interestingly, Hebrew and Yiddish are very dissimilar, even though both languages use the Hebrew alphabets in their script. While Hebrew is Semitic language and the subgroup of Afro-Asiatic languages like Arabic and Amharic, Yiddish is a German dialect which uses more Hebrew words but with a very distinctive Ashkenazic pronunciation. Although both Hebrew and Yiddish relate to the Jewish people, Hebrew brings up images of Israel, a Middle Eastern culture, while Yiddish should bring up notions of European culture of Jewish communities in Europe. The reason to this is because Hebrew is a Middle Eastern language that can be traced back to over 3,000 years ago, while Yiddish is a language which originated in Europe in the Rhineland, a loosely defined area of Western Germany, over 800 years ago, eventually spreading to Eastern and Central Europe. The Jewish community is very rich and diverse. This is why many non-Jews find it hard to understand the varying branches and sects of its society. At the core of it, most Jews just prefer to be called Jews. Just that. If you love this video, kindly hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos like this. See you next time.